I was wondering if you can comment on a idea and a notion that comes up often in conversations about this, of why can't other nations in the region take in Palestinian refugees?
So I think that we have to tackle what's implied by that at multiple levels. And I actually want to walk back. I was listening to Nikki Haley when she said in one of her interviews, and why is it that you think no one wants to take the Palestinians in? And she had like this deeply disturbing laugh to it. Or Ben Shapiro when he said, Israelis like to build and Arabs like to bomb crap and live in their sewage. Why is it that no one wants to govern the Palestinians? Suggesting that Palestinians are ungovernable and not fit to bring into your countries. And that's why they're being turned away. You know who else faced that bigotry? Jews trying to escape the Holocaust. 1939, 300,000 Germans applied for refuge here in the United States. I think only about 10,000 were allowed in. And we also turned away ships of Jews that were seeking refuge here in the United States. On what basis? That they were a national security threat and could not be trusted. They could not be taken in. That's the same bigotry that's driving this. And I want you to think about it, from that perspective, how deeply offensive that is. When you have millions of Palestinians in diaspora, where have Palestinians caused trouble where they've gone? Everywhere Palestinians are, they have overcome significant hurdles to become scientists and doctors and to grow themselves and to grow the places that they're in. Where have Palestinians that have been displaced all over the world caused issues for people, right? So it's both racist and factually incorrect. That's not the right question that should be asked. The question that should be asked are, why are these people driven from their homes? Not why won't other people around them open their homes to them? And so I'll just share with you that even on a personal level, it's really interesting because sometimes on Twitter or wherever it is, it'll be like, go back home, right? Why don't you go back home? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, sure. My parents were driven from their homes. Yeah, sure. I was born in this country as a consequence of bad policy. Now, I embrace my complicated identity in that regard, and I hope to be productive as an American, but I am a Palestinian. And Palestinians in diaspora that have been fortunate enough to have the ability to build and to overcome circumstances should not be an excuse for eliminating the Palestinians that remain in their homes under that torment. So this bigotry is not new. Unfortunately, its manifestation is ugly. And, we have to push back on it whenever it shows itself, no matter who it's being spoken about.
How difficult has it been for people in Gaza to flee?
I mean, they're blockaded from all directions. There is nowhere for people in Gaza to go. They cannot get out. And, the reality is that they don't want to leave. They do not want to leave. The Palestinian people want to live in their land, in their homes, and to continue to produce, an extension of the beautiful culture and legacy that was handed to them. They don't want to leave. In fact, those that have fled for whatever reason or have been able to get out for medical treatment or because they have some sort of citizenship in other countries, all they're talking about is going back and rebuilding. You can't bomb Palestine out of our hearts. You cannot starve Palestine out of our hearts. I think that's a critical mistake that Israel is making. And it thinks that if it destroys Gaza enough, if it wipes out all the buildings, that people will never want to come back. We don't want to go anywhere as a Palestinian people, in a way that would remove us from our homes.
The Palestinian people are proud people.
Yeah, you've met a lot of them, right? When you sat with Muhammad al-Corridor people in East Jerusalem, what those people have been subjected to, you know, the harassment. Like, think about the tenacity and the character that it takes to still try to walk back into your home after an intruder has been brought in by the state that's sitting in your living room, that is pushing you around, and you're saying, I'm not leaving my home. This is literally what's been happening in East Jerusalem. And we're not going anywhere. I think those of us that are in diaspora, Palestine is not leaving our hearts. And those of us that are still there are not leaving their land. And the world has to make the occupier more accountable, not tell the occupied how to cope.
Do you ever imagine that if your family did not flee and you were now living in say in Gaza, what you would be doing?
I think about what could have been all the time. You know, I actually mentioned this in the first DC protest, that I remember getting a notification, a news notification, just prior to October, with my name in it. You know, so I always get these notifications, right, if my name's been mentioned in an article. And so, oh, your name's been mentioned in an article. And it was a 16-year-old Omar Suleiman who was murdered in the West Bank. He literally had my name. I held up his picture. And I realized that could have been me. So I think of why God chose me to not be there, and hopefully him choosing all of us that are not there to be for those that are still there, to be their voices. I'm grateful, and I'm also in pain. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak on their behalf, but I'm also guilty that they have to bear the brunt of this evil hatred that unfortunately displaced our parents in the first place.